Hello, I'm Kainton, the Tech Pro. Today we continue from where we stopped in regular expression. So we have match characters from A to K with a length of 7, and we have it right here. Let's move to the third one. Match characters from letters A to K with minimum length of 3 and maximum length of 7. How do we do that? So what you do is you specify the minimum and the maximum inside the curly braces, and then you separate them with a comma. So at this point, this is a regular expression that solves this third question. Match characters from letters A to K, minimum length of 3 and maximum length of 7. So if I validate, it validates true. Let's just try to make it 8 at this time. It validates false, and let's make it maybe 1 or 2. It validates false. Okay, so that is for that. Match 8 digits numeric number. Can you do this? Match 8 digit numeric number. So you can either use this 0 to 9, and it has to be 8 digits. So just leave it at 8 digits. Validate is false. So how many of them? 8. It validates true. If we add just one more, it's going to be false because it has to be 8. If we make it less than 8, it's going to be false. So let's use the shorthand way that I taught you just now. So if I use /d, it's also the same way like the other one. So make it just 8, it validates true. Let's move to the fourth one. Match numbers with minimum length of 2 and maximum length of 8. As you have guessed, know that you put the minimum and the maximum inside curly braces. So put 2 and put 8 out there. Validates true. Or if it's more than 8, it fails. If it's less than 2, it also fails. Let's look at the next one. Can you try this one? Match receipt numbers of the form INV 43458. It means that the numbers will always have first 3 digits or first 3 characters to be letters of uppercase, with the last 5 characters to be numbers, just like you can see there. So how would you write it? It specifies first 3 has to be what? Has to be letters. So as I told you before, you simply say A, U, Z. Of length of how many? Of length of 3. Okay, followed by what? Followed by letters. Remember I told you that /d is for letters. So A to Z with a length of 3, /d or number with a length of what? Of 5. Okay, so at this point it's going to validate correctly if we enter the right thing. So let's try to do it. ASD, let's see, validate true. So let's try to change something. It validates false. So you see, regular expressions are not really difficult. This looks complex if you are just starting to learn, but from what you are seeing now, you can see that you can just do it yourself. A to Z, letters taken from A to Z with a length of 3, and then 5 followed by 5 digits. Okay, so that is how it works. Alright, let's now go to a little tricky one. Match numbers with decimal point 44.08. So it needs to have numbers with a decimal point. So let's try. So the first thing is that it has to be a number, right? So it has to be a number, /d. It has to be a number, right? They did not give us any specific length, so let's just leave it like that. But it has to be either 1 or more, right? I told you before, it has to be 1 or more. So how do you specify one or more? You use plus sign, okay? Use a plus sign, and then you want a dot. You want a dot, okay? So you can just put a dot, but this dot now is a we need to enclose it in brackets. Dots. Now there's something about dots. Dot is a symbol, okay? So for symbols to work in regular expressions as exactly as here, you need to escape it, meaning that you need to write a backslash before it to tell the regular expression that we should accept it as a literal. For instance, if we go to a search box and type dots, it searches out something. It's not searching for dots, but it's searching for, okay, you can see a whole lot of things matches dot. In fact, dot matches everything. So to avoid that haywire behavior, you simply limit it to just a literal dot by using a backslash. So at this point, let's test this regular expression. Validate false. Let's try to say 56 dots. Validate true. Okay, so you can see this represents numbers which can be any number and then followed by a dot. Let's try to put something at the end and see it validates false. Alright, so we've validated from the first part to the dot. Now what follows? You guessed right. Continue writing other numbers. We have /d. Okay, but at this time we can just place it inside the place, inside this /d. So at this point, if we validate this is false, if we validate this alright, I explained to you why it's happening that way. So you see it's true. So we need to put a plus sign to show one or more. So at this point it validates correctly. Now put more, it validates. Alright, so now let's try something. If we validate 54, it says false, okay? It says false because it doesn't accept any integer. But now how do we tell this regular expression, okay, to accept also integers? How do we tell it to accept integers? It means that this part of the regular expression enclosed in brackets, it can be 0 or more, meaning that this part can either be 0. So what is 0 or more? 0 or more is a star. So if we validate now, it's going to work. Alright, but let's try to confuse this regular expression. Let's say dot dot 98 validates false. Validates true. Let's try to create some confusion. So you can see what is happening there. It is validating true for this, okay, which is not correct. So how do we handle this problem? So that it doesn't repeat this. So let's move this to, so dot has to appear exactly once, right? Let's try. Now it validates false, okay, because dot has to appear exactly once. Let's see this. It validates true. So you see how we play around with regular expressions and we get what we want. So this is a digit repeating one or more times. This is a dot, okay, followed by a digit that repeats one or more times. Now let's play around a little. Let's remove this and validate. It validates true. But we will not want it to validate anything like this. We don't want it to have, if you put a dot, then you must have a D. So let's do that in the next lesson. We are going to end this lesson at this point, but I would like to thank you for viewing. Try to play around a little, and then we'll see in the next tutorial. Subscribe if you've not subscribed, so that you get notified when I make new lessons.